And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
Propaganda, propaganda. You can liberate the babies from their candy. It's so easy, it's a sin, you're gonna wanna jump right in. You can always depend on propaganda. Life is so hard, so confusing. Everyone's just trying to make ends meet. You can brighten up their day, keep the facts out of their way. Just simplify the complex, repeat.
Repeat. Well, the propaganda's stick, man, and it just keeps piling on. You think when they can't put any more on you, they got another dose, another truckload. Now, what we're going to do is I want to go ahead and play this. I just want to preface because we're not playing the whole piece, so give you an idea what you missed. Alex Jones is at a Talkers Magazine event where he is speaking to a bunch of talk. You know, there's, 100, 200, whatever in the room there. And they're sitting there quietly, just kind of, we're getting a dose from Alex Jones. They know that there's big problems in the industry. They know what he's saying is the truth. But they have so ingratiated themselves and been so ingrained into the system that I don't know if they even know a path out. So they wanted him to explain to them how he's parlayed, from public access television 16 years ago into this media little mini empire that's growing up that's free of all the things that they're plagued with. How did he do it? What's the future? How could they do it? What's going to happen? And he makes it very clear. You have to make a choice. I'll just let him speak for himself. This is good, and you won't see this anywhere. This is somebody that taped this conference, and it was put up on Talker Magazine's ad. There's no link or anything you can get to it. So you can pass this YouTube of this show around here because it's the only way you're going to get it the way, any place I know. Here we go.
To how they are planning to do that. But again, you can tune in the radio show, and we break it down and give you the citations where they're openly meeting and pushing it. It's all there hidden in plain view. So decide who you're going to serve. You got to serve somebody like Bob Dylan says, choose what you serve. As for me and my house, I serve the truth because out of that everything good comes. The truth sells, the truth is exciting. And obviously there's the stagnation that's going on in the media. People are so tired of the Republican-Democrat football being passed back and forth. They're so tired of politicians trying to craft what they say and be careful and push the same baloney over and over again to where people, exactly what Lionel said, tune out. And if you go to the major studies that are out there, you can just type in and you'll get major university studies. In the last 50 years, the brain waves of North Americans in Canada and the United States, particularly, not so much Mexico, the brainwave level has lowered. Yeah. The IQs have lowered. Yeah. People are in more of a trance-like sleepwalking stage. They're at the point right above that. That's why I can go on a national TV show and get almost no traffic to Infowars.com, but I go on some Christian station in a city that's got passionate, listening, tuned in, awake people who aren't in a zombie-like state, literally, and I plug my DVDs and sell 1,000 of them. Go on CNN, say, get my DVDs at Infowars.com, sell 5. Go on the Christian station with people that care and are awake. Even if you're not a Christian, my point is they're focused. They're into something spiritual. They're into being awake. Their brainwaves, when you're in a spiritual state, go off the chart. They're recognizing things. You go on some conservative station who can't even get phone calls, big station, like, wow, you talked about another issue we never talked about. The lines have been jammed. They were jammed for 2 days, after you were on. What happened? I talked about something different, or I looked at it from a different angle than what you've been doing. If I just sat up here and said, red house, for 10 hours, and then for 5 minutes you'd get up and walk out. And it's the same thing. And so all these different consultants and people, we've got to just go with this parameter. This is what the owners are saying because it's perception management. We've got to keep it in this box. We've got to keep managing society this way. And you're part of the management team now. You're moving up. Well, the people never really wanted freedom anyways, and they're dumb and they tear you apart. if they ever got into power. You might as well join the system. All of that is a load of crud. The guy, the gal above you, giving you this line about join the new world, join the corporate board. They're expendable. They're being expended. This is a consolidation. This system wants to get rid of basically the wealth of this nation, the world, as a way to manage and control you. They are attacking you. Now, how have I been able to reach 25 million people just on one streaming system a month, the other formats, another 14 million or so? How do I have upwards of 600,000 podcast downloads a day? How do I have 8 different YouTube channels with over 300 million views in the last 2.5 years? How on every metric are we exponentially growing? That's happening because so much of what I've said, there's a lot of ingredients go into this. So much of what I've said, people now see manifest and happen. And they're realizing that what I'm covering is important. So there's that ingredient. Also, I'm somebody who started out 16.5 years ago on Access Television. I went to community college. I could have gone to UT, but I wanted to go part-time because I was working. And they were teaching me antiquated stuff in the 2 semesters. So I just then tried to go intern at a radio station and saw that there was no future there. So I thought, well, there's Access Television, which again was an electronic soapbox. And then I was able, within less than 6 months, a local radio station came on. And the program director saw me on Access, said, you want a weekend show? And then 6 months later, you want a Sunday show, not just Saturday. You want to go on weeknights. And then things progressed from that point. But I was always hungry because I had passion to warn people about anti-gun legislation. I mean, I wanted to defend my Second Amendment. And the North American Union movement to get rid of my country's sovereignty. And movements to raise my taxes. And all of this basic fundamental stuff. I didn't approach it as a Democrat or as a Republican or as a Libertarian. I approach it as somebody that doesn't want to be a slave. I approach it as somebody who wants to be free. It's very elementary. What I've done is, it's an elephant in the room. I'm not that smart. Most of you people here, I've listened to you. You're more eloquent than I am. You've got incredible wordsmiths. You know. You're smart. You know what's going on. All I'm doing is saying, there it is. I mean, this is not rocket science. And so I looked for every crack I could, every way, every system. I went on the air. I read the executive orders of Bill Clinton. I knew that the United Nations had already signed a deal for buffer zones around national parks, as they've done in third world countries, where they had taken under UNESCO the control of resources in the world. I went on air and said the UN is taking into receivership these buffer zones. You go, well, they're not mining it. Where's the money? They take it off limits. You understand? And so then that makes their investments next to it go up. You shut down the clean coal in Utah. The only other place they got it's in China, and Bill Clinton's got a deal with them. He shuts that down in the UN agreement. Now they make $20 billion in the metric. See, it's all about planned artificial scarcity. But again, that's the problem. There's just too much data. There's too much information. It's all there. It's like trying to just walk to a mountain vista and stand there and say, well, I'm looking at a mountain and it's very beautiful. You've got to go see it for yourself. You've got to go see the detail. But my point getting into that is that's how I got into filmmaking, was because I went on air and said this, and I had the executive orders, I had the documents, I had the photos, and people didn't believe me. And they didn't have webcams then in 1996. That's why I was showing it on Access Television. And I said, well, instead of a newsletter, people don't believe this. I'll travel to these national parks. I'll show it myself. And I politely walk in the Grand Canyon. Hi, I'd like to, where's the UN plaque saying this has been set aside for the UN? We're going to arrest you, run! All acting guilty and running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And so I said, okay, folks, I'm going to sell a VHS tape, for $10, and you'll fund me so I can get better cameras. I had a second-hand VHS camera that cost about $100. And then I went and edited Access TV on 1970s 3/4-inch decks, and I'd cut the audio on the reels and try to feed it through. And I wasn't trained in all of this, and I was up till 6 in the morning every day and not sleeping. So I wrecked my looks. From years, from about 96 to 2000, before I finally got enough money and could hire employees, I was sleeping 3 hours a day, and I was doing it with coffee. And so I transformed into what I am today. So because I worked my way up in every media and every system trying to learn it, I mean, we would have had a lot more success up until now if I'd have obviously known all this 16 years ago.
That's a good place to stop it. We'll start right back with it when we come back here on Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock. Alex finally gets to talk directly to station owners and talk show hosts about his success. We'll be right back.